Let's get some perspective now on the issues facing women around the world. And for that, I'm pleased to be joined by Mona Eltahawy. She's an author, activist. She's a feminist and a columnist for the New York Times as well. Mona, thank you so much for joining us. First, I just want to start off by taking a look at one of the tweets that you actually wrote today. And here it is. We have it for you. In this tweet, you write, "This is why I hate International Women's Day and say so every year. Fight the patriarchy each and every second of every day of each and every month." And you were actually retweeting someone who noted that the media only seems to focus on women one time per year. So I just want to ask you, what exactly did you mean by that? Why do you hate International Women's Day?
First of all, thank you for having me. And I used a much stronger word than fight, which I know that you can't say on air. So I encourage your viewers to go and see my tweet. The reason that I said that is because I believe that every day is International Women's Day. Every day is a day that we must pay attention to the abuses of patriarchy that harm women and girls and non-binary people across the world. Every day we should be paying attention to violence against women and girls. Every day we should be asking, why aren't women paid the same? Why don't women and girls have the same opportunities? But for me, the main reason that I hate International Women's Day is because I think it makes us just think about patriarchy on this one day, and it makes us think about it in this very limited way, in that we end up saying we want women's equality. I want something that is much bigger than women's equality. I want the destruction of patriarchy. Now, this is not the destruction of men, because patriarchy is not men. Patriarchy are the systems and institutions around the world which every day privilege male dominance. So this is something I want us to focus on every day, and I want us to say around the world, we must all be free of patriarchy every day.
Now, we often talk about the actions that women need to take in the fight for women's rights. What about men? What about me? What do we need to do?
Well, I think that men need to recognize that patriarchy hurts them too, because patriarchy has given us social constructs. It socializes us in a very particular way in being men and women. And this is why I said women, girls, and non-binary people, because we are recognizing more and more the ways that patriarchy hurts not just women and girls and not just men who don't obey the socialization of patriarchy, but it also hurts trans women, trans girls, trans men, and non-binary people in general. And I think men need to recognize that. Secondly, I think that what men need to do is to intervene. When you see, now, who is violent against women? Who subjects women to sexual assault? It is men. By far and large, it is men. So what I want men to do, instead of writing to me and saying, I don't do that, hashtag not all men, as we say on social media, I want men, when they see their male friends doing that, to say, hey, that is wrong. Stop it right now. And I want men to recognize that I, as a woman, and that others, women, girls, and non-binary people, deserve to be free of patriarchy, but of the abuses of patriarchy, regardless of who I'm related to. Because often we will see people plead to men by saying, hey, what if this is your mother? What if, imagine this was your sister or your wife or your daughter? No, this is a human being who deserves to be free of violence. So I want men to recognize the harm of patriarchy to them, and I want men to intervene and stop the harms of patriarchy against us all.
Let's zoom in a bit now on women's rights. If we can, there's, of course, extreme differences when it comes to women's rights in different countries around the world. Now, you were born in Egypt. Can you talk about women's rights in Egypt and in that region? How far have we come there, and what still needs to be done?
Absolutely. Patriarchy exists around the world. It is the one thing that the entire world has in common. But as you said, the abuses of patriarchy in the forms of misogyny and other forms of violence against women, girls, and non-binary people occur on a spectrum of severity. Now, in my country of origin, Egypt, we had a revolution, you will remember, in 2011. This revolution was against the dictator in the presidential palace. We are still waiting for a revolution against the dictator on the street corner. And that is the dictator that is responsible for making public space especially harmful to women and girls. And we are waiting for a revolution against the dictator in the home. And that is the dictator that is behind domestic violence, sexual assault in the home, marital rape, female genital mutilation, all of those things. And as an Egyptian, I am calling for the revolution against what I call the trifecta of misogyny, which is against the dictator of the state, the street, and the home, because we can take that revolution around the world. So that revolution connects my country of birth, Egypt, where women are still waiting to fight sexual violence, or they're still fighting sexual violence and in the home and outside. And women in the United States, which is my country of naturalization, share those similar struggles. And also in that part of the world where I'm from, Saudi Arabia, where I grew up, women also face those struggles, because as we speak now, there are 17 women's rights activists in prison who were sent there by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto leader of that country, who claims to be an emancipator of women and has imprisoned women who are truly emancipating women, has ordered them tortured, and has charged them. So it's imperative that we connect all of those countries and recognize that when the United States is fighting against women's reproductive rights, as the Trump administration is doing, this is connected to what Mohammed bin Salman is doing in Saudi Arabia and to what the Abdel Fattah al-Sisi regime is doing in Egypt.
I want to talk quickly, the Me Too movement, it's been seen as one of the recent successes in terms of women's rights, the women's movement. You actually helped launch a hashtag called Mosque Me Too. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was and what challenges you faced?
Yes, I was very inspired by Black feminist activist Tarana Burke, who in 2006 launched this hashtag Me Too. This hashtag went global last year when white actresses in Hollywood made it very famous against Harvey Weinstein and other producers and famous people in the entertainment industry. I took the challenge that Me Too presents to patriarchy by telling patriarchy that you are abusing male dominance and you're abusing that power to harm women and girls. And as a woman of Muslim descent, I launched hashtag Mosque Me Too. I heard that a Pakistani woman called Sabika Khan was sexually assaulted during pilgrimage to Mecca, the holiest site for Muslims, and I connected it to my own sexual assault, which happened in 1982 during pilgrimage in Mecca, and I launched hashtag Mosque Me Too to ask fellow Muslim women to share their own stories, to expose sexual assault in Muslim sacred space, so that we could say we as Muslim women will expose sexual violence against us, and we will not allow any religion or any society or any culture to silence women, because the abuses of patriarchy must be fought everywhere.
Mona, in your opinion, briefly, if you can, what are the biggest challenges still standing in the way in terms of women's rights?
I think the biggest challenge right now is the rise of authoritarians around the world. When you look at Europe, I'm thinking of Orban in Hungary. I'm thinking of Erdogan in Turkey when I expand the lens. I'm thinking of Sisi in Egypt, Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, Donald Trump in the United States, Bolsonaro in Brazil, Xi in China. I am seeing Duterte in the Philippines. I am seeing the so-called strong men, authoritarian men, and fascist leaders around the world who seriously and dangerously are a danger to everyone's rights, but seriously endanger specifically women's rights. And the one thing connecting all of these authoritarians is that they are terrified of feminists, because feminists say at the heart of authoritarianism is patriarchy and the way it privileges male dominance. So I think the biggest challenge to women's rights across the world are these authoritarians around the world, and we must fight them vociferously and vehemently globally.
All right, Mona Eltahawy, author and feminist activist, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.